Welcome to the briefing room. We are back. This is so exciting. We did not color coordinate, but I think we all look pretty close. This is nice.
Yeah.
Shades of gray, blue, green. Let's go. This is what springs in the air. Man, I'm excited. We talked about this a while back. We've been friends for a long time, and I'm just so excited to talk to you on this format, in this forum with Michelle. So we are lucky to have Patrick Fitzhugh in the house in the briefing room. I read your bio and I got to like the 18th page and it was just like, man, I can't read all this. So you have such a crazy, awesome history. Why don't I give you like 30, 45 seconds? Just tell us, Patrick Fitzhugh, elevator pitch, go.
Absolutely. And Michelle and Jason, thank you for having me here.
Yeah.
A West Valley kid.
Yeah.
Grew up in West Phoenix, going to Alhambra High School. Enlisted into the military in 2003. Shipped off to the Air Force August of 2003. Great time to go to San Antonio, Texas. I saw fog for the first time when it was like 85 degrees. It was great. But after the Air Force, I did a couple years doing some civilian contracting for the Department of the Army, doing some rescue coordination work. Wow. Came back to Arizona at the end of 2008. Was kind of dealing with the struggles of transition myself for a couple years and found myself at USAA, where I've been for the last 15 years. And really blessed the last 7 years. I've been the regional site director and able to step into a lot of community support roles, doing a lot of work around supporting our military families, supporting our veterans in the community. And now I find myself in the last few years, about 4 years now, doing a lot of heavy work in workforce development across Arizona and in the education department as well. And in my free time, because I like having so many hobbies, I do a lot of work with the West Valley Mavericks here in West Greater Phoenix area. And just excited to keep trying to make a change for our workforce system in Arizona and for our veterans trying to call it home.
That's awesome.
So West Valley Mavericks, let's go. I don't know why I like that so much. But hey, but you didn't say something else. I want you to talk about this for a second. Like, I think it's fascinating. Didn't you met Don in high school? Can you tell into your family a little bit?
Yeah. Okay. Well, high school sweetheart. We're coming up on 20 years of marriage.
Oh,
coming
man.
Up in June.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's been totally smooth and flawless, right?
Of course.
We started dating sophomore year in high school. We actually met in chemistry class. There's a pun in there somewhere.
Chemistry. All right,
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah.
And, she had to basically pursue me. I was not the aware kid who knew when people were into me.
I don't think many high school boys are aware.
No.
Like women, we just in such subtle. We think we're being so obvious, but it was like I flipped my hair in front of him, and
Yeah.
boys
Hey,
are like, was that something in your way?
I was 30 and I didn't realize my wife was reaching out to me. So it doesn't end in high school. It takes us a while.
There you go.
And it was a lot of lack of confidence and fear, right? You wouldn't know that later on in the years to come after that. But, off and on again a lot. We went kind of different routes. I went in the military and she went to ASU and worked on her, her degree there. And so again, off and on. And then finally there just came a point where I had to make the decision. And so, we got married. I still think pretty young, about 22. And things have been going, well since then.
That's
so awesome. I always love it. Like, how big this community is, and then you meet people that are like high school sweethearts, born and raised in Phoenix. Like I can't imagine what this city looks like to people like you.
And I think it's only 5%. I think 5% of people that meet at that age make it. So you're part of the 5% club.
Yeah.
So are we. So
Thank
that's
you.
why I know
Thank
that.
you.
We're 5%ers.
Yay.
Are we able to edit that out that we just called them top 5%? Like, do we have to keep that in?
Well, we like to start out fun here, obviously. What are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts? What are you focusing on?
I'm an audiobook and a podcast junkie. I do listen to a lot of music. My music's usually going to be something like faith-based country music or hard Christian music. But podcast-wise, anything that's really around AI, a lot of the science of where technology is going today, fun topics like quantum computing. But then, also I just finished a book by Admiral William McChrystal called Conquering the Crisis. And so super relevant. Today I think everything is a crisis and we operate in a lot of crises. And so there are a lot of really powerful takeaways from that book that I try and implement in the work that I do and how I operate.
What's the most surprising thing you've heard about AI on a podcast recently?
There's, I think, a couple different camps. Some people think that it's not moving as fast as it was assumed to have moved.
Yeah.
And then there's others who think it's moving a lot faster.
Yeah.
I kind of lean on that side. And, you know, I think just this last Monday, Oracle announced a layoff of 16,000 employees through an email Monday morning. And there's countless other organizations that are running towards it as fast as possible. And so I think if you don't know how to use AI, you're behind the ball already. You need to start figuring out what it is and how to effectively use it.
Go ahead.
No,
Yeah.
I read a story recently. It was like talking about how many data center or like power, what do they call it? Like the power centers with all that the US needs to power just the AI that we want to go after. It was like 400 or something. But you think of that number, and even in Phoenix, like, and it was saying something about it, like for all these data centers the US needs, that would be the equivalent of like 187 nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like that's how much power is going to be needed to power not only the data centers, but the AI models, everything we're going to. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, there's you know, there's a lot of work being impacted by AI, but there's also going to be a lot of industry on the back end of it in the next few years as we start to figure this out. You know, one of the reasons that a lot of data centers and TSMC came here to Arizona is because we have one of the largest nuclear power plants in the United States, Palo Verde Nuclear Power. But still, that's not going to be enough power.
Right.
You know, so the federal government, you know, signed an executive order that a lot of these data centers are going to be allowed to create their own power stations now. So, you know, I expect to see micro nuclear technology being implemented in some of these data centers and stuff that we never would have thought possible. And there's going to be a whole line of jobs and workforce around that that's yet to be developed.
We were in a nonprofit setting, but the AI, kind of how are we using it? How is it actually being effective and efficient for you? But one of the things was a lot of people are being very kind to their AI, like trying to talk to it, like, thank you, good morning. And I gotta say, I do some of that. I'm like, good morning, let's work on. And they said, stop, with the amount of water and power, it's not computing good morning.
Yeah,
it's like we are wasting power and energy on. But I'm like, what if it takes over the world? I wanted to know I was nice to it.
When I get my Alexa recipe or my Alexa timer, I'm like, oh, thank you. You know, I'm like, oh wait, why did I say that?
All of our please and thank yous are literally costing millions of dollars.
Yes. So that's like a small little habit we could just change. Like, stop saying thank you, stop saying please, stop. You know, just get to the point. It doesn't care.
I find it fascinating how people just don't use AI though. Right. Like, there's so many.
Really?
Like, I'm gonna write 10 emails. To like, I'm like, hey, I'm writing all these emails. This is what I'm doing it for. Can you give me a draft? And I get 10 drafts. You know how long it would have taken me to write those personal? And then I go in and just shift what I want or do. Just the amount of easy work that is taken up the admin. My pastor talked about this last week. So my pastor actually put all of his Bible verses, like the passages, all this stuff, put it into AI and says, hey, I want music. Like, can you make me songs for all of the, like, basically the Bible? Yeah. And he goes around listening to AI powered songs of the Bible, and he's like, I love it. It's the best music ever. It's just Bible verses and music. And I'm like,
same. Yeah. On YouTube, there's a couple channels, and it's like Jelly Roll singing the Book of Psalms in a blues style.
Oh, so it just made it up.
It just made it up, and it's fantastic music.
Okay, some of my favorite AI videos are the ones where, like, your animals are doing impossible. Like, that's what it reminds me. Yes, I'm like, oh, this is why.
There's a lot of money in technology being put around just entertaining us humans right now.
Oh, it's horrible. Like, even though, and then the worst side, you know, like everything that happened to Tiger Woods a couple weeks back, you know, and it was like AI videos of everything about him, and you're like, God, how does this come out so fast? Like,
so fast.
You don't even know what's real and what's not real because it looks so authentic, and it's scary.
Yeah.
If you're a business leader or you're anything you're doing, you have to utilize AI. But then it's also the back end of like, God, is it too much, or how do I authenticate this? What are the protocols to making sure it's real? How do I know someone actually sent me this email and it wasn't AI, you know?
I get a lot of things sent to me from some older people, some family who it's like, no, that's not real. That's a fake photo. And you have to learn how to spot it or how to validate it on the back end.
I'm asking my kids constantly, is this one real? Is this one real? But they're my like lie detectors.
I'm not going to say what it was, but there's some training in the military, and it was somebody came up to me and was telling me how the whole school is basically telling them to use AI.
Yes.
And then they record it. They kind of do this where there's a week where the two schools come together and work. And one of the schools is like, you can't do anything with AI. You can't do paper. You can't. And I'm like, we're literally teaching people the wrong thing. They should be utilizing it and finding ways to maximize effort, maximize like capabilities. But then if we're talking about personal, like, there's a way that, hey, I need this to be personal. I need this to be, I want this to come from you. But if you're not utilizing AI for everything you do in your business, I think you're wrong. Like, you have to find a way to use it. So,
well, and it should be impacting your business in some way, shape, or form, right? Agentic AI, you can now have AI agents who do the work for you. You know, you can create one yourself that manages your email for you, gets rid of all your spam and calendars everything for you. So if anything, it's going to make us more efficient and effective as human beings if you're leaning into it.
So you said you're doing some workforce development stuff. So are you able to influence any of that in there, or join the conversations to kind of help influence that? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, definitely joining the conversation. So right now I sit as the chair for the City Phoenix Workforce Development Board.
Okay.
And that's under the Arizona at Work system, which is a state-appointed workforce system for Arizona. And that manages federal funding provided to the state of Arizona to help underserved, underprivileged, dislocated workers, youth, and how we upskill them. So I'm definitely talking about AI, and really the focal point in most of my conversations is in our data and data systems. Okay. Making sure that we have the right type of data systems, that we're tracking the right type of outcomes as well. Because that's one thing that AI does a really good job of, is it creates a lot of data on the back end, but we have to now know how to validate the data and what to do with that data, how to monetize it, how to use it to drive our outcomes as well. I was on the board of directors for the Greater Phoenix Chamber as well, and we just had our board retreat this last week, and it ended with conversations about AI and actually doing some AI prompting. We had someone come in from NAU and teach a lot of people how to create these systems, and it's really, I would say, kind of eye-opening how many top organizations, top executives still really don't understand the capabilities of these tools, but also the risk, the controls that you need to build in place. You know, people don't realize that anything you put in AI is going to be used for its data systems on the back end to improve itself. So you shouldn't be putting your social security or proprietary information or a lot of that into your AI chatbots, right? It's also discoverable in the event of a subpoena or litigation as well. So, and then the other stuff is I am currently on the commission for the Department of Education for the CTEs. The schools are doing a lot of our technical skilling and training, and specifically on the insurance industry and finance.
Oh, okay.
And so, you know, insurance and finance, I think, you know, that's a data-rich, data-heavy environment. And so the people needing to get skilled into that space, they also need to know a lot more about data, how to read data, what it means to validate what a hallucination is that these systems sometimes create as well. So I definitely have a voice. I'm trying to influence. I'm actually standing up my own consultancy here in the next 30 days as well. Congratulations. Specifically focused, thank you, on getting our workforce system, our citizens here in Arizona, into these durable skills and into these durable jobs. You know, so we did this incredible job of bringing, you know, TSMC in here with this understanding that we have a great workforce system, and we do. But, you know, we went from we're top 5 for increasing wages, top 5 for job growth. We're now in the bottom 5 in the U.S. And a lot of that is really because a lot of the education system and workforce system isn't able to move today at the speed that business is starting to move at.
Would you also say that it's part of the housing issue, though? I mean, our housing, like, pretty much doubled during COVID, and just that's eating up any raises or any wages that are coming in. It's kind of throwing that off a little bit.
Well, you know, I think that's what we saw from COVID was the geographic boundaries for most workers kind of blew up, and people were willing to relocate for the first time. Yeah. And I think with that distribution of jobs across the U.S., we're seeing more movement because of work now. And we're seeing that same here in Arizona. So people are willing to move here because of the climate. It's a great place to live and raise your kids and all those good things. But also, if our advanced manufacturers, our semiconductor spaces, all these industries that we've built here over the last decade through some incredible initiatives from, you know, partners across economic development and our legislative bodies, if we can't deliver those talent pools, they're going to bring that talent in, right? And they're going to either move it in here themselves, or what I kind of tell people is if the workforce system can't move at the speed of business, the employers are going to either offshore, they're going to automate, or they're going to figure out how to get rid of that work completely. Because
I think TSMC brought in quite a bit.
Yeah, they did. And they still will. And there's still a need, because the expertise that their workers bring who've been doing it for decades upon decades is just invaluable. But at the same time, there's a significant gap and opportunity for us for how we're doing our education. We're just talking about AI in school, right?
Yeah.
In China, these kids are starting to work with AI in kindergarten and in first grade. They're on these tablets.
Yeah.
I kind of envision the future.
I'm trying to
of
imagine that. Like, what are the
Yeah.
kindergartners
can I
prompting
say-
at AI?
Yeah.
Like, what's that look
But I
like?
also think something that's different in other cultures is that they look at things in a 20-year kind of as a 20-year problem. In America, we look at it as like a 2-year problem.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what's going on right now?
Yeah.
Put out the fire. Our education system doesn't move as a 20-year. Like, if you're playing sports, you're not looking to play in the NBA tomorrow. You're looking at being in the NBA after 10,000 hours of working at getting the best at it. That's why you have IMG Academy. You have all these academies standing up to just have kids work on sports.
Yes.
Yeah.
We look at education as like, we don't look at education as like, hey, where are these like, imagine if someone stood up a hardware school or like a manual labor school to be an air conditioner, a plumber, or fix brakes.
Yes.
Well, I took my car in a couple weeks ago, and the guy was like, hey, the computer didn't tell me anything's wrong. I'm like, the computer? I'm telling you there's something wrong with my car. I can hear the dang noise.
Yeah.
I think there's this manual labor part of life where we tell people that's not good. For years, you know, if you wanted to be a plumber or fix brakes, people were like, oh, dude, that sucks.
Yeah.
You got to go to college. Who would do that? Like, same with, you think, services like fire or law enforcement. We go through these gaps of not telling people the importance of service. And I think we have to look at things as college is not the answer for every kid. So what is the answer when we think education? And I think the states have to look at, we do need states to look at, hey, where do we want to be? Where are the economic development teams talking about? Who are they bringing in? Like, to me, bringing in Terra Vallis, right? We have 300,000 people that want to live here in the next 50 years. Where are the companies that are going to hire 300,000 people? And what is the workforce that we need? Where are the economic development teams bringing in companies that we can fit those people into jobs? So
Yeah, there's a couple points I want to hit on that one. And first off, education is part of economic development.
yeah.
Yep.
Workforce development is part of economic development. In our state right now, those three entities are very siloed apart. And we need to really establish some processes, whether it's data systems or some intergovernmental agreements, to where they're really working in unison together. You know, to your point about these states, you know, if you look at the state of Mississippi, Kentucky, and Alabama, not too long ago, they had some of the worst education results in the U.S. They're now on the top side of it. And it's because they understood that they needed to work with their industry partners and start getting in front of their students at a much younger age, these K through 12 students, right? We should be getting in front of third and fourth graders, talking to them and their parents, making sure their parents understand what a life in this industry means. So like, for example, when I say get a job and working in the semiconductor industry, everybody pictures a clean room, right? And wearing a mask in there. What they don't picture is somebody starting a advanced semiconductor or clean room cleaning business, right? They need somebody to come in there and clean their data centers, but it requires a higher level of rigor, precision, some incredible compliance controls, but you can make a lot of money in doing that. You know, so there's this whole ecosystem around these durable industries that are being grown here in Arizona, and that's where we really need to do the better, not just the education at the lower levels, but the awareness of what does it mean when I say advanced manufacturing? People picture you standing on an assembly line pushing a button. That's not always the case, right? There's transportation, there's storage, there's a lot of stuff that has to support that system. And to your point about kind of when I was talking about China and getting in front of them at a younger age, you know, I think about how do you order food and transportation today? You know, I can push a button.
That's true.
And I can have food here in 20 minutes. If I need a ride, I can push a button and get somewhere else. A lot of what we do has been radically changed in just the last decade.
Yeah.
If you look at how our education system today looks, it looked the same 40 years ago. It looked the same 60 years ago. The same approaches that we take with education. And I think to your point about some of these academies, they're starting to realize that there's other ways of doing this and how we have to retool the education and how we're getting in front of our kids.
So Arizona did a study with the Arizona We Want and ASU, and they studied Arizona like 12 years ago, saying, what do we want? And education was a part of that.
Yeah.
And Read On Arizona is trying to tackle that 0 to 3rd grade reading level.
Yes.
And so if people want to learn more about that, they can go to Read On Arizona. And they're studying that Mississippi model. We were actually pre-COVID, things had flipped. We were actually one of the leaders, and then COVID hit, and now we're one of the laggers again. But Mississippi made that jump during that time, and it's been fascinating to watch. And I know they're working with our education partners, the K through 12 and K through 8, really, and cities. So many of our local cities have become Read On partners to kind of see how can we come alongside the education districts to come and say, how can we as a business come and have these better conversations? How can we support you in the classroom? How do we make sure that our students here in our cities are hitting that level? Because they tell you that if you can basically tell a third grader where their reading level is, how successful they're going to be, whether it's going to be jail or it's going to be all the way, the sky's the limit. And it's really sad that that's the actual indicator where I can look back to your third grade report cards and kind of tell you, and everybody beats there's people that beat the odds, but statistically speaking, that's a scary number. And to your point, it's economic development.
Yeah.
So if we look at it that way,
I'm not smart enough, so don't shoot me. But when I look back in my military days, we always used to fight this battle of like the current threat and the future threat and the future operating environment. Yeah. And it always got me so mad is like, hey, who in our so what happens a lot of times in organizations is you have people that should be looking to the future, but they're looking one level down, two level down, or doing the job of someone that behind them, and they're focused on what the day-to-day life. And you're like, no, that's not your job anymore. Look to the future. And what I feel like in some of these business in some of these ecosystems is who's the people that are put together to look to the future.
Right.
Where do we want to be in 10 years? And what happens is the easy thing is to get right now. Hey, I need these A students. I need these people to get it right now. And, right now might be too late.
Right.
Who are the people looking to the future of what we want the third graders to be in 15 years or whatever that is? I feel like we always miss that.
As somebody that helped put that together here in this city, I was asking the wrong people.
Yeah.
It took me about 7 years to realize who was that person. I just kept thinking, if it's the person at the top, they're just going to make it happen.
Yeah.
They'll give the vision, they'll get excited. And finally, if somebody's like, I don't actually do that, that's like curriculum people.
Yeah.
The curriculum people are the ones talking to the next level, and they're making this pipeline. Let's grab them to the table. So I think part of it was just I just didn't know the ecosystem. I didn't know what I didn't know. I wanted to help, but
and I think this goes back to I used to love the Johari's window kind of like model of leadership. This, the person sees this, or I see this, they see this, and what do we both not see? What's the black box of like no one's seeing this, and how come there isn't anybody red teaming this? Like, whoa, why aren't we all looking at this? Like, and we think we get it right. Like we had a great year at the school, and it's like that's great, but what about like
is red teaming a military term?
Red teaming is like you think about like
why don't we talk about that? I don't know what red teaming means.
It's like red teaming is when you kind of like you make people like shoot what you're doing, like find the holes in what you're doing. What are the things in our plan that we're not looking at? What, like you think about like when someone opens a business, that what usually doesn't happen is we're like, hey, what happens when this goes wrong? We always want to look at the good things, like, hey, this is going to be great, we got a great idea. And if you can't figure out, hey, if this goes right, what would right look like? And if this goes wrong, what would wrong look like?
There's a whole team that gets to poke holes in the plan.
And we have teams that'll come into the base and like literally tell you everything you're wrong, and like find the weaknesses in your security plan, your infrastructure plan, all this stuff. And I feel like we don't ever want to say what would be bad, because we think bad is like, oh, people get fired. Bad is how we get better.
Yes.
And if you're not looking at
bad is how you avoid pitfalls.
Yeah, but pitfalls
pointing that all out.
But you only learn from failure. You only learn
but like
from,
I'm not going to go and risk somebody's life like that, like by not checking plans. And
I think that's the thing. We don't want to be a bad person to someone's plan because we think, we got to be good, but I think we need people that look at things from an outside view and go, hey, I think you're missing this, or where is this at?
Well, and what we need to realize is, we've got a moonshot goal right now of what we're trying to do for the state of Arizona. We are primed like nobody else.
Right.
If you look at any other state in the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, there's less and less opportunity for businesses to grow and expand in those states for a lot of different reasons. So Arizona really is kind of like that, is not just the last bastion, but we have these incredible business partners who want so much for us to be successful.
Right.
And so for us to not be prepared, to your point, we've got to do the red team thing on it, but we also have to have a really good idea and some preparation of how we're going to get there. And that's kind of the core piece that's missing, is you have all these different, whether it's the workforce, the education, or the economic development side. Yes, they're siloed, but within each one of those, the business partner has to go find the school that's going to feed them, and they have to try and pull that thread down of what comes into their curriculum. We have to figure out how to do this as one team. If you look back at the Artemis 2 mission that just happened, incredible preparation that came together. A lot of departments and agencies working in tandem. It would not have happened the way it has successfully if they didn't have that preparation together across the entire ecosystem.
Sorry. I
was just like,
you just talked about like got my head thinking because you're talking like tandem, all these teams working together. How do we all come together? Work background. In your background, when you talked earlier, you talked about SEER.
Yes.
And we just had something happen recently in the news, like a credible, like we rescued 3 pilots. I think it was 3 pilots in a weekend.
Yeah.
A down F-15, a crew, a down A-10. Go talk about like survival. Like I got to know survival in the workforce, but you were a SEER guy. What, like, can you go a little bit in your background and talk about that?
Yeah, I'll get high level on it because I've been out a long time. I was just on my Signal chat with my buddies who are still doing it today.
Signal, that's no, I'm just
the app, you know, the Signal app, right? We're not inviting anybody who shouldn't be in it. Right?
No reporters in our chat,
reporters.
Right? Okay.
But so if you are air crew in the military, you have to go through what's called Level C Code of Conduct training. This was established after Vietnam, Korean War, and the Air Force was put in charge of what's called the Joint Personnel Rescue Agency. So basically, if Army, Marines, whoever, if they're not able to self-rescue or self-recover, they activate this rescue mechanism. Well, part of that is this training school that everybody goes through. You can do your level, you know, B code of conduct training, and it's kind of read to you. Your level C, you're going through an intensive course. This is something that, you know, depending on your branch in the military, depending on your job, it might look a little bit different. You know, the Air Force has theirs, the Navy has theirs, the Army has theirs. Air Force kind of oversees all of them to make sure everybody's doing it right, you know, because the standards. Go Air Force.
Go figure the Air Force has to get it right for everybody.
So essentially what I did as a SEER instructor, as a young, 22-year-old kid is I'd have a group of students. They were everything from brand new to senior officers, and they'd have to go through our school and through some academic training. Then we'd take them out to the field for about a week, and we'd do some survival training, some of it non-combative. So, how to build water systems, fire, how to navigate, how to operate radios, how to communicate with rescue, how to self-rescue, navigating and walking in places. Then we did it under an evasion experience. So just like these pilots, it's what happens when you hit the ground immediately. What's your primary action? How are you moving? You're in preparation, like we were saying beforehand, you've already done all of your training, you've done your mission planning, and in your mission planning are these tools to tell not just you, but the force and the other forces what you're going to do if you hit the ground and something goes wrong. Yeah. Well, if it's in this part of the country, we know he's going to head west because that's what we've prepared him for. That's what he's been instructed to do. We know he's going to be on these radio comms. We know he's going to be taking these actions. We know he has this equipment. So that all came into fruition this last week, and why that rescue recovery mechanism. I mean, if you think about it, the country of Iran is like 3 times the country size of Iraq, right? And it's a coastal city.
What is that in context of like
geographic space?
Right, but like, is that like Arizona size? Is that like?
No, I don't know the comparison to the size of the state of Arizona right now, but I can tell you it's hundreds of thousands of square miles, and you're looking for the literally not the needle in the haystack. You're looking for like the piece of hay in the haystack, right? So the fact that we were able to execute these recovery missions in such a rapid pace, like people do not fully appreciate the precision, the planning, and the execution. Our pararescue guys were deployed there, the PJs. We got to play with them a little when they'd come through our school, spraying them in the face with water as they're trying to tread water type of thing, all fun times. So I did that. That was my job in the military. That was my MOS. I got to travel around the U.S., do a bunch of fun TDYs, play with the Army, doing JRTC down in Louisiana. Got to go to water school down in Florida. Got to teach a winter up in Alaska and 50 below zero.
Oh, no, thank you.
And, for a kid who grew up in West Phoenix and like never saw snow, that was, going from that to there, it was really surreal, type of experience. So yeah, it was an awesome job, and I'd do it all over again.
And it's crazy to think about it. You said the size, but the size, regardless of the size, think about it like this too. You're going somewhere to look for somebody that everyone in that country is looking for too.
True.
So like, it's not like, like, hey, we're going in at night, no one's around. It's quiet. Everyone in this country is looking for these pilots because
time pressure on
they know if they get these guys, they now have a leg up, and they can, propaganda and everything.
Yep.
And you're going into it. And so like I know the survival thing we could talk about. Talk a little bit though, the mindset, like of being all alone, knowing if you get found, your mind already wants to think about all that. Like,
I'll talk a little bit a little bit about the will to survive. But beforehand, I just want to say one thing that was incredible in my time when I was doing rescue work for the Department of the Army. is there was a reputation, and there still is today, a reputation that the military in America has with its other foreign service militaries. And that, there was a saying in French, I don't remember how they said it, but it was basically, if you need help, you better hope it's an American. Right. And so time and time again in theater, I saw situations where Americans ran towards gunfire when no one else would. Right. When Americans would go into rescue somebody when no one else could, either because of it's supplies or this other mission, or, we're just not taking that risk. And so what I love seeing in these rescue videos was these helicopters flying low level looking for these individuals. At the same time, there's small grounds fire, these guys with AKs, making pop shots at them. And so you would never see that from another branch of the military or outside of the United States. That's just a fact. So the mindset wise is it's training time, right? And that's why training is so important to the military. That's why I don't care if another country has a 6th generation fighter. We do the best training in this world, bar none, and a lot of it happens, here in Arizona, thanks to Luke Air Force Base. So I think that's what likely happened is, we train them how to compartmentalize that this is now the mission, this is now the objective, and you don't get to sit there in this first 48 hours at least. Maybe if you were captured and maybe if you were isolated and put somewhere for a period of time, but in this phase, it's all about my training and taking action and doing what I've been trained to do.
So back to that mindset, what are some of the things, how do you just keep that focus where you don't, is there a technique that you guys train to just not let that fear come in, or to how do you push it out?
I mean,
or
we have SEER psychologists actually, who will teach some of these skills to SEER instructors, and we'll train them everything from, visualization exercises before you go out, making sure that your affairs
Can you take us through one?
We used to do one. We used to do one that was basically you visualizing putting these things that keep you up at night, stress and worry, you putting them into a box, locking it, putting it onto a shelf, and then you come back after mission and you unlock it, take that stuff back out, and you would be kind of walk through this in almost a meditation.
It's almost like I think it's a discipline of controlling what you can control.
Yes.
So what happens in business and in any kind of walk of life, we let what we can't control our day.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so we focus on our budget, or we focus on our people, we focus on all these things that we can't control instead of what can we control. Let's work on what we have. Yeah. And I think in that survival mentality, you can't control if you're going to get captured. You can't control what everybody else is. All you can control is your survival, and worry about those things. What do I need to do next? Simple steps. What is the next thing I need to do? I need to find cover. Yeah. What's the next thing I need to do? I need to figure out a way to put out an AP, the flag that I need help, without everybody seeing it. Think, what can you control?
Correct.
Dumb it down, worry about those things. And then even in business, what can you control as a leader? Yeah.
And I also do a lot of work in crisis response. So I lead that for my office and for Arizona. And it's about not only what can I control, but thinking, 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of always having a plan and figuring out how do I need to tweak that plan in what's happening today. Right. And realizing that I may not be able to control everything, to your point, but I have some responsibility to still continue to plan out. So I guarantee you those pilots on the ground, we're following the PACE acronym is what we teach: primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. Yeah. So you might have a primary plan, but you're going to have all those backups. Yeah. And as the situation progresses and changes, I'm also updating those other plans as well.
I was going to say, do you kind of reset at every
Absolutely.
Next,
Absolutely.
This was my P until, I just figured this out and I'm going to need a new pace.
Well, there's a famous saying in the military world, and that's, no plan survives first contact, right? And so even though we plan as best as we can, there's another phrase from kind of Marine Corps-ish, and it's the Semper Gumby, always flexible. And it's you have to be willing to adjust to what the environment is telling you. And so I've seen that in business. I have seen, business leaders who the environment around them is changing, just like we're seeing today with technology and AI. And those who are unwilling to adapt and flex to the environment, they're gonna feel it later on.
So what was that first saying you had? No plan
survives first contact.
First contact. So in a business sense, I think we pay a lot and we give a lot of time to strategic plans.
Yes.
And then we just start doing them. And whether it's right or not, this is a 3 or a 5, and we just keep pushing through. So what would you give advice to a business leader that's listening that you may have paid for a 3 to 5 minute your strategic plan.
Yeah.
But if it's not working or something's changed, I mean,
it's the idea of sunk cost, right? The cost is spent, but the reality on the ground might change, right? I think that there were a lot of businesses when COVID happened who they did not look at how to retool for the future. They thought it was maybe short term, something, but they didn't realize how it was going to impact their talent strategies. They didn't impact how it was going to impact the type of people who want to work for them, or even just the Gen Z coming into the workforce at scale now. More than 50% of our employees out here are now either Gen Z or millennial, and they expect different things. They expect a different work-life balance. They expect different types of benefits. And so I think you can plan all day, but realize there are key events and milestones and sometimes just the curveballs that you might have to throw that strategy not entirely out the window, because your mission should stay true, that vision should stay true, but you might have to adapt to a completely different world environment.
But I also think we make change like something it's not. So when you look at a lot of businesses, like it's not, okay, if we're changing what we're going to do, like if I'm Blockbuster Video and I'm competing with Netflix and like, we're going to stop brick and mortar and we're going to go to a totally online thing. That's a huge change.
Yeah.
But if you think about the mission, it actually is delivering entertainment to the home, to the family. So we're not changing our mission. We're changing how we get there. I think in the military, this happens. One of the best things I could tell you is like Korea. I was at Kunsan Air Base, Wolfpack. Let's go, Wolfpack, for anybody watching. But the mission of the base is to defend the base, accept following forces, take the fight north. I haven't been there since 2017. How do I remember that? You could talk to anybody that's ever been to Korea and they would tell you those three things. Why? Because everybody understood the mission. We went and did it. And I love it. We get, every base I went to, every base I've been in leadership, every 2 years, what do? Strategic, offsite, let's go. Yeah. And we think we're changing, but we're not. We're not changing anything. We're changing some words on a piece of paper. Right. And what we don't focus enough on is the mission does not change. We're going to change our messaging. We're going to adapt what we think is our priorities are. We're going to evolve because we're thinking 20 years from now, not 2 years from now. And the bases that can think 20 years from now are the ones that improve so much of their bases. Yeah. We're not changing. We're shifting kind of like our maybe principles. We're refocusing priorities, but we're not changing. And I think anytime you say change, what does your people do?
They
panic.
They
oh
panic.
God, we're changing. Here we go. We're doing it again. Next leader. Here they go. Everybody comes back from the offsite, and we have these cool messaging, and everybody's like, "Oh God, here they go.
Here we go again.
Stop it. Stop. What is it? I think Chick-fil-A has they have one motto. Yeah, I don't know what it is but it's like everybody in there knows. You ever go to Chick-fil-A and not meet someone that isn't happy?
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. Well, and the other reason, because Jay, they understand how their work is connected to the mission.
Yeah,
that's the piece that I think has been undervalued for so long, and as we've worked towards the idea of efficiencies, there has been a loss of the individual person, and making sure that no matter what their role is in the company, that they have a sense of importance and purpose in the work that they do and how it supports the mission. That they're not just making widgets, that they're not just sweeping floors, whatever you want to say, right? I'm just the what. That is critical to how we show up for our mission each and every day. And I think what you'll see in the months, years ahead, with the speed of change and how it's happening, is those who can tie the what they do to the mission in a really strong way, so they have purposeful employees who are willing to run through that brick wall for the mission because they believe in the mission, they are going to endure. However, the companies that here's the phrase I kind of tie it back to is, do you have a committed workforce or compliant workforce? A majority of businesses out there have a compliant workforce. Right. It's not really about the mission. It's about the function of the work that they do. And they're willing to do the minimum of what they need to do. But if you have, and I've been incredibly employed for 15 years for a company that has an incredible mission, if people understand the mission that they serve and how they add value to that, they will run through that brick wall. Right. They will work the overtime. They will identify the issues rather than trying to sweep it under the rug. And they won't try and shift the blame to somebody else. They're going to say, how can I help fix this for our company and for our mission?
Yeah, it's like when I was an airman in the Air Force, I had a supervisor who told me, you have three things you need to be good at. You need to show up to work on time. You need to iron your uniform and shine your boots. And I'm like, that's all I have to do? He's like, don't think of anything else. I want you to be good at those three things. Oh, man, dude, my boots were shine. My uniform was ironed, and I was never late to anything. And you think about like what, like we want people in like airmen that come to the Air Force, like we want you to know that the strategy, the national security strategy, and you're like, why?
Right.
They don't even. I don't even want you reading that. Like it's 40 pages. I want you to read another book that makes you fall asleep. Yeah. And we don't like go. What you said is so valuable. I want to maximize effort at the lowest level to get the most out of you. How to get the most out of you to make sure you're committed to what this organization stands for. Yeah. And we don't focus on that.
And
enough.
that goes back to culture, right?
Yeah.
We used to just come up with the plans. And I think this workforce right now, regardless of what generation you're part of, we really need to focus on the culture and your piece in it. And if I think we focus more on developing that, and exactly to your point, that mission, the culture, the strategy kind of falls into place. But people do need to know what's the communication. So I tell people all the time, you probably shouldn't be strategic planning probably farther than like 2 to 3 years, just because to the book that you're reading, the point that you're going through is that it's coming so quickly, whether you think it's fast enough or not. We can't keep up with the communication, the direct line, the culture. So what we can do is focus on cultivating culture, why you're here, and then the what kind of takes care of itself.
And I think you're talking about, which I think something that is good in strategic planning is like, let's say the goal is to be the, whatever you want to say, number one company in Arizona. We want to have a technical workforce that can contribute to data centers. And I draw that line from 2035 back to me right now, right? If anything doesn't touch that line, we don't need to work on it.
Right.
And that's an easy like strategic view of like, hey, where do we want to be?
That's almost that red team, right?
It's
but
red
hey,
teaming. And then as strategically, you have to have those 6-month touch points where you're looking, hey, are we following the right track?
Yes.
Hey, get away from that. It doesn't help get to here. And what would happen sometimes is when you look at an organization and their strategic goals, you realize, oh, they're worried about all these things that don't help them get here.
Exactly.
And that's where the strategic kind of those offsites can help reevaluate. Hey guys, get back to our core principles. And all I want everybody in that principle in those rooms to do is go back and get everybody else to kind of feel that mission, to go to that way. And what happens too many times is we let the senior leaders get all the love, and they don't know how to translate that communication.
Or we underestimate what people are bringing in.
Yeah.
So like I might give you a goal, but if I don't actually know what's going on at home with you, and you don't know what people are bringing in, you don't know what kind of mindset, and I think that is bleeding in a lot more, and we're not asking those kind of questions. What kind of, and I know we go through a training with Leadership West, it's a soundtrack training. Like what soundtrack is this person coming in and they're bringing in that has nothing to do with actually the business and the mission, but we're starting to have those conversations, I think, with people, but it's how do you can't separate. We're spending so much time with our works, 40, 50 hours. You can't cut that out anymore.
There's more noise in the world today than ever before, right? And our goal as leaders is to help people identify the signals and protect them or tune out the noise, right? And I've been really successful in developing employees into director roles, into data roles, into a lot of things that they did not necessarily envision originally. But it was only because I got to know them as a person and I understood what their emotional capacity was. That's another thing is your employees, you know who has what skill set from a mental capacity, from execution, who's good with people. Everybody has a specific emotional capacity. And over the last 6 years, it's been kind of redefining itself from the COVID era, you know, so to speak. And we're now, I think, starting to kind of pull that forward up into the leadership world and realize if I don't know my people and they just become kind of that cog or widget in the system, their effectiveness, their impact, the threshold is a lot lower. But when you can find what drives them, right back to the SEER stuff and their survival, we talk about the will to survive. And I used to do this exercise with my crew, and essentially you're putting them out into a spot for like 6 hours on their own. And it's just them and a notepad and paper. And I tell them, write letters to yourself, write letters to your family, like undump all this stuff that's in your head. And it becomes a cathartic, emotional thing for a lot of people because we just keep going and going and going as a society. So, I mean, if I ask you the last time, what's the longest period of time in the last 2 weeks you went without an email, a phone, listening to music, reading a book, just your thoughts in your head sitting there, you'd probably have trouble answering. Probably, well, when I was asleep. right? Otherwise, it's always the next task, the next iteration of things. So the idea of emotional regulation, I think, is going to start coming forward a lot more. Emotional maturity, the ability to process those emotions. That's what tying back to the recovery we saw this weekend and with the pilots on the ground. The goal with all that training and everything else in front of it was to make sure that they weren't fighting emotions down on the ground. There might have been a little bit of that, but I promise you it got pushed back because of the training and the preparation that went into place. So we need to figure out how can we help our employees to become more resilient to the disruption that's going to continue to happen.
Yeah. I think we have a responsibility to employers to do that. That's not just a military survive.
No, not at all.
But I think with what we're living in the day and age, that should be part of just who we are and our culture and what we can bring to our employees. I think that's a huge benefit.
And I think AI can help you with this. I think AI can help you.
There we go.
AI can help you get all the mundane tasks that we spend so much time on, that you get those, you can use AI to get those quicker. And then you now have bandwidth to be more of a people leader, to understand your people. And I get caught up in like,
but even how would you even feel if you came in every morning and part of your startup was, I need to write a note to myself or whatever, or I'm closing out the day with it. And that was just part of, that's what we do as a team, or that's what we do as an organization. And then like AI could develop that. Like these are just easy things.
Here's a great,
close the day.
Great concept. You do these offsites, right? And we get these offsites and you have whatever leadership comes in and you have all these things. What is the most important part of those offsites? It's the 10 minutes in between talks. It's the dinner at night. And you do these things where you connect as a person, right? Like you learn about people. But let me ask you, if you think about all of them, how much follow-up really happens after that? To me, I think leadership is like, I go home to my room that night and I write, hey, Michelle and her husband have their 25-year anniversary. Fitz just had his 22nd wedding anniversary with his high school sweetheart. Guess what I'm doing in 3 weeks? I'm putting a little thing and I'm texting him in 3 weeks going, hey, I hope your anniversary went well. Can't believe you're still your high school sweethearts. Or I'm finding those touch points that make someone go, wow, he was listening.
Well, but was that part of your training? Like, are you mentoring? Are you coaching up your managers to, like, if nobody told you to do that, how would you know?
Yeah, and I think that's something we don't invest in with the leadership enough, is the personal touch points of follow-up, feedback, getting back, like making people know, like a lot of times they don't care about the job. Right. They care about, do you care about me?
Amen.
And how do you show them you care about them? Right. Remembering crap they tell you and not going back and go, how many kids do you have again?
Yeah.
What are their names again?
Exactly.
It's that old book.
Those little things matter more than any SME expertise in the job.
Well, here's the truth. Is a lot of that strategy work, a lot of the science of how we do what we do, we are going to be able to farm a lot of that out to AI, or use that at least to help us articulate and build that. You know, I was able to build some of the top sales teams within my company. And I'll tell you, I did so very unsuccessfly initially. I did so because I had that kind of command and control mindset, and it worked. But I'll admit, I broke some people, and some people decided to leave the company because I was driving so hard towards that. Later on, I learned through some trials and in my own growth, I started caring about the person again, and caring about the person actually above everything else. And I got to know, why is this paycheck important to you?
I think the most important thing you just said was you had failures early. You weren't the leader, though. You weren't in charge. So can you talk about, like, who was above you that gave you that bandwidth? Because now in this world, you don't have 6 months to get it right. No. Like, at 6 months, we're like, does Fitz the right guy for this job? So who was in charge of you, and maybe what did they give you? What kind of leash should they give you to help you learn that? Because you needed that to be who you are.
I think the mantra I was given is fail fast, learn fast.
Okay.
Right. And if you continue to follow the same process and you're not happy with the results, are you changing how you're approaching it? And there's a lot of leaders who struggle with that. They say, this is just the type of leader I am. Well, guess what? You might need to become a different type of leader for the future, or for what your workforce needs, or for this specific point in time, like a crisis management. When you put on your crisis management hat on, you need to change a little bit of how you operate. With some, you might be very direct with no candor. With others, you might have to have nothing but empathy and sympathy and be willing to spend the time with them. So you do have to learn how to kind of move into these different types of leadership in a more fluid manner today, instead of being so myopic and just, no, this is my lead. I took this CBQRS test or whatever type of test, Myers-Briggs, whatever, and this is the type of leader I am.
It said I'm an orange. I'm not supposed to make decisions. Just do whatever I want.
Yeah, this is my happy place. Well, no, we have to become more flexible. I think The focus on how we communicate and interact with one another, humanity. The humanity is going to be the value proposition for employers in the future. It's when you come here, you're not just going to be a cog. Someone's going to care about you because, oh, by the way, in the world we live in today, most people don't have large social circles. A lot of people, their only social circle is the workplace. There might be people who at home, it's not a safe place.
Right.
They might be having to deal with physical abuse or other things. When they come to work, that's the only safe place they have. So how do we make this something more meaningful and impactful to them, more than just a paycheck, as maybe the means to the most important things and priorities in their life?
Yep.
And that's the hardest thing, though. Like, being in a position where, I need to make a decision. Just go back to your survival training. Like, you got to act. You can't just sit there and wait for the rescue. You're going to have to go do some things. And I feel like sometimes people, they get to that crux of acting and they don't act. And they wait and they want to get it perfect. And you're like, no, act. You need to make a decision. But you also have to have the trust from above. If you don't have that trust to know, hey, if this decision isn't right, I'm either getting held accountable or I'm getting some, hey, at least you tried. This is how we refocus. This is what, maybe more of this, less of this. Let's get better at this. I just feel like people don't want to make a decision now. They're so scared to make a decision because they think, is this going to work? Is it perfect?
Well, is it too scared? Sometimes we're just making too many decisions. I mean, there's studies out there that said we are making, I can't even, we'll put it in the notes, but we are making so many decisions that we are going into just indecision because of we're having to make too many decisions.
And there's some, like, I think there is a way of, like, how do you make some of those decisions automatically? How can AI help you? Like, what are the decisions
Go get
in
a
your
capsule wardrobe. Go get a menu for the week of what you're going to make dinner. Take out the dumb ones.
Don't let the decisions outweigh, like, the day. Like, what are those ones that are automatic yeses, get them out. Where can you make decisions earlier that you're not so, like, why do I have
so you're not dealing with decision burnout because it's a real thing.
Yes, it is. It is.
I'll talk on a couple things with that.
Well, and I wanted to say what you to follow up to what you said. I think good leaders and great leaders are going to be separated with how flexible and how much they can flex up and down to exactly what you just said. Because the ones that don't want to do the work, it's work to go figure out communication styles, to go figure out the different things. But that's what's going to separate good leaders from great leaders. It goes back to the old book, How to Win People and Influence.
Places, absolutely.
It's just like, how is that still true almost like 100 years later?
And I know you want to answer this, but my only thing to that is, like, treat people like you want to be treated. Like, what are those common, like, I don't have to know everything about everybody. Because that's, like, how hard that is in leadership to know every person's, like, how they want to be talked. What I need to do is treat people the right way. Treat people in a good way. Treat them how I want to. Like, I think the golden principle in the Bible is there for a reason, right? And if I treat everybody equally, treat them with positivity, I'm a good person to people, I don't need to know if every person is a type A or type E or whatever personality. But if I treat them the right way to get the best out of them, and they know that I care about them, a lot of times that's even better. Like, and so it's just, I think sometimes in leadership we're so focused on, okay, who are my strong personalities? Who's got this? Like, you need to just be a good person. Treat people the right.
And give them the opportunity. Give them the opportunity to make mistakes. Give them the opportunity to go into a skill that maybe you don't see in them yet. The greatest, I think, mentor in my professional career, his name was Greg DeBernard. He was a litigator for USA, a retired colonel from the Army Reserves, tank commander, and he gave me the leadership grace. And what I mean by that is he showed me, not just through his actions, but through his words, that he cared about me. And he gave me the opportunities to go screw up. And I did screw up a couple times. And when I did, he followed through with what he said. And that was, he cared about me, and he wanted to come alongside me and help me become a better person all around and become better at home. And he took the time to care there. But I want to go back to what you're talking about with the amount of decisions we have to make. And there's to your point, something widely talked about but never really people spend time on, and that's decision paralysis. Right? It's the same reason that when I was newly married and I went into the shampoo aisle and my wife just said, buy shampoo for me, I stood there for 5 minutes before walking away. Because there was too many options, right? So a skill of mine that's really helped me in this space of decision paralysis, because I get more information coming into me, and there's more decisions than I actually have capacity to make in a day, in 24 hours.
Options.
I could have 8 day work week working 48-hour days, and there would still be more work to be done. And that's just the world we find ourselves in. So I come in every morning and I have my tasking board. It's just a notepad on a Word notepad, and I have my Alpha, Bravo, Charlies. My Alpha, it's urgent and critical, meaning there's a short timeline, and if I don't act on it, something bad's going to happen. Okay. My Bravos are it's either urgent or critical. So if it's urgent but not critical, meh, right? It needs to be done, but if it doesn't get done, nothing's going to necessarily fall apart or break. But if it's critical, but it's not urgent, I've got some more time to spend on it, then I'm going to spend as much time as I can on those critical issues and not be too quick to react. So yes, we need to take action. And I see so many business leaders who just failure to take action, but I also see the other side, the polar opposite. And that's the reactive leader who the second something lands on their plate, they feel like they have to respond to it right away. And so I was telling you about Greg, and one of the things I was very proud to kind of coach up and grow in him was hang on a second, we don't have to make a decision on this second. Let's maybe get some more information, or let's get some other people's opinions, or, if this is an emotional reaction, let's just sleep on it and see if we feel the same way in the morning.
Yeah, there was a book I read. It's called The 1 Minute Manager. And
that's a good one.
In this book, but I'll paraphrase, but there's this thing called like the monkey manager, like the monkey minute. And so what happens is you come in and you have your task list, right? Like 5-meter target, 25-meter target, 100-meter target. And before you know, everybody comes in your office. And your task list that you had prioritized just changed to everybody else's task list. And the monkeys are on your back. And as a leader, what you have to figure out is how do you not take people's monkeys but give it back to them? Absolutely. And so what are the things they can work on that they're trying to give you to work on? So everybody comes in, and what does every leader do? Oh, I got to help you out. No, actually, that's the worst thing you can do. What you need to figure out is how do I give them the tools to go figure this out on themselves, and don't have to jump on everything, because now you're you're putting out every fire, and you look at everything. You are the only person that can do the critical and the timely thing, and now you didn't do any of them because you're working on everybody else's stuff, because their fires are actually not critical. They're not. What was it? Critical and
Well, you've got your Alpha. It's critical and urgent.
Critical and urgent. Yeah.
And then critical or urgent, and then my Charlies. Those are not critical, not urgent. Back burner of the stove. And I think as leaders, you have to realize it's not that you're not taking care of people. Everybody has that. You said it, like, I want to care. I want them to know I'm here for them. And you don't want anybody to leave your office and go, God, they didn't do anything for me. Right. You did. You gave them everything. This is your job. Now, at some point, they're going to need you, right? And you're like, all right, I have to go do this. Yes. And then you have to give them the follow-up that you worked on it and give it to them, because then they're going to expect you to do it. But I just think we don't do a good job. And I love that book. I love what it kind of teaches people about the management of, like, you're not taking everybody's burdens. That's not your job. Right. Well, and I think what's also important, Jay, is how we identify that in ourselves as leaders, because I sit here and I tell you this, but at the same time, there's seasons and there's times where I find myself falling back into these other leadership styles. When stuff's not good at home, or there's health issues going on at work, I do find myself becoming the reactive leader. And that's why it's really critical to block out those reflection times, those first 30 minutes, the last 30 minutes of your day, to your point, to do a self-analysis, not analysis of the business or anything else going on around you, but analysis of how am I operating today? Why am I feeling so overwhelmed and stressed? It's not because the external environment. And the external environment can add, some things on your plate, but ultimately we are only in control of how we react to the situation. And so if I'm not reacting the right way, I need to pause. There's another acronym. I've given you a lot today. We use the STOP acronym in the military when we did our training, and I've carried it through my life, and that's stop, think, organize, proceed, right? The first step of that is stop. Pause. Take that tactical pause and just do a self-evaluation. How am I doing, and what can I control in the moment? And if everything else is out of control, it's okay. Then I'm going to start going through my checklist and my processes. Yeah.
One of the things you said about giving grace and room for people to fail. Yeah. I recently read a story about a leader who allowed one of his leaders to go and run with a project. And he failed, and he cost the company like $1 million. Yeah. And so his whole board was like, well, you're going to let him go, right? And he said, why would I let him go? I just invested $1 million into this gentleman. Absolutely. And so it was just such a great switch and flip of usually that punitive thought comes out where they were just dumb or idiot, but throw in all the reasons and all these reasons why. But that person just learned $1 million lesson do you really want that walking out the door?
Well, that's that short-term view, right? And so in business, again, we find ourselves falling back into this short-term view rather than looking at the long-term gain, right? Of, well, how will this make this business more resilient in the future? Did we identify new risks? Did we find new errors in how we're doing this? How do we mitigate this so that nobody else, given the freedom to go try and run a project again, steps on this specific landmine, right? So we should be willing to learn, but also we just have to start taking a longer view of employees. And I know we want to say that the Gen Z, they want to pop around every 2 years, you know, or so. That may be the case. That's not always the case. There are employees at my company who fall in that Gen Z who they've been with us for years and they don't plan on going anywhere else because they feel valued and they see the pathway for them to grow and develop and to live the life that they want.
But I also think as a leader, what is your risk tolerance? So like,
Absolutely.
you know, to
That's
me,
true.
losing $1 million, like that might be over my risk tolerance, you know?
Right.
But do your people know that?
Right.
So what does failure look like? What is failure that you own and what is failure I own? And as a leader, have you given those lines? You know, if I'm a billion-dollar company, losing $1 million is probably not that big of a deal.
Well,
but if
a
I
loss
have
of a plane.
Yeah, so I agree. Like if we're going to do training and we want to train, we want people to learn. My general used to tell this great story of Agile combat employment, kind of something they did, and like a pilot left a helmet on an aircraft, you know, $300,000 helmet. Shut the canopy and it crushed the helmet. But it was all in Agile combat employment, multi-capable airmen. You know, we did this thing. That was okay. It was in training. That losing that helmet's, but it was part of training. Losing the aircraft or losing the pilot, probably too much.
Right.
And so I think, you know, what is that threshold? Hey, you know, this is where I'm giving my team the right. We used to call it the carrot sticks. So whenever you go shooting, there's these carrot sticks on the end of your shooting platform or the range, and you shoot inside the carrot sticks, and this is where you shoot. If someone shoots outside the carrot, that's their fault, and they're going to get held accountable. But anywhere in here, we have to be okay with that. And so I think, you know, do we give the right and left limits to what we're acceptable risk? And when it's outside of those purviews, then people go, hey, boss, I got something for you. We're at a point where I think I need your help.
I just think it was just a reframing. We always just think of reviews and so forth. Of or all the good you learned or the good you did, and here's all the failures you did. And it was like we hardly ever translate the failure of like, well, I took this failure, I learned this, and now I improved the process. Or like sometimes we don't make that translation of what the failure has, the benefit it's actually brought. We just go, oh, it was a bad project or it didn't get run well or whatever. And then we just kind of go, I'm going to remember that on your review. But it's like, well, what if I turned that around?
Yes.
And I don't know that story always gets told. We get into that punitive mindset because it's a different, you know, it's just too fast
it's
or
the mindset
too
of
whatever.
scarcity and the short term.
I'm not
Yes,
disagreeing.
agreed,
I'm not disagreeing. What I meant more of is like, I think as the leader sometimes, like, did I help this person make the right decisions? Because I always go back to too, like when there's a mistake, it's usually a leadership issue or a training issue. And so which one is it at? If it's a leadership issue, I probably need but I need to own that a little bit, right? Like that, if it's training, oh wow, are we not giving the training we need? So like understanding, like it's not maybe that this person failed. It's like what in our company can we fix, or what can we do to make sure this doesn't happen again, and we learn from it. I still think I agree with you.
I think
like,
it's a both.
Yeah, like we can learn from this and be better.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's I was in a Jocko Willink phase for a little bit. If you don't know who he is,
we all are.
Okay,
We
great.
all have.
Don't worry, that phase is good.
It's in my garage. The big.
He wrote a great book, Extreme Ownership, blew up the business community. Everybody loved it, but you saw some negative stuff start to happen because of this. And he followed up with another book, which is The Dichotomy of Leadership, which to me is absolutely even better than Extreme Ownership. Yeah, perfect, right there.
It's right down there.
And that's it. And that's understanding this is a game of chess where we have to be thinking 5 steps ahead, but also be willing to change our approach. And again, not be so myopic in that it's short-term and punitive. Sometimes it needs to be long-term and supportive on these mistakes as well. And there's also in that military to civilian translation, talking about making that transition out of the military. In the military, there is an understanding, I think, at a better level that leadership is a responsibility, not just a title, and that there's something deeper in it. And that there's a family behind this individual, and that the decisions we make impact this person and this family. Now, do they necessarily prioritize that as number one? No, right? But that's because they have this mission, and it's one of the most dangerous missions and most important missions in our world today. But I think that they do good at building that in their young leaders to understand the person and the responsibility there as a leader.
Yeah.
And it's also like when you become the leader, right? Like you have these great workers, and then they become a leader, and you're like, why aren't they any good anymore?
Yeah.
And it's hard. And and I think something about like we never, like in the military, we like to say it's a 24-hour responsibility, right? Like you're always in the military. You never take your uniform off. And I think civilian world, sometimes it's easy to say, well, I'm only responsible when you come to work, like 8 to 5, right?
Yes,
like,
yes.
We don't realize how much that impacts, like what happens. You said it perfectly. Like, you don't know what happened at home. Like, did they get a call that their father has cancer? Did they have a colicky baby all night? And understanding those touch points to help people when they are having a bad day, like things are going bad at home. But, oh man, I was going to say one more thing. I just think that people sometimes like don't realize how important that is. So
well, to your point of in your world, in that world, in the military world, but have you ever looked at a job description for the role of leadership in even like a business world? Nowhere on there does it really say get to know your people, care for the people. It's always tasks. So maybe we even as leaders and organizations need to take a hard look at what are our job descriptions say for our leaders.
Yes.
We need to start adding that human element to there, because that should be asked about in an interview just as much as what have you been able to accomplish.
But also, like as leaders, I've said this to so many leaders, don't forget where you came from. You didn't start out in that position. And like, I love these guys that are gals that I talk to, and they're like, I never would have done that. I'm like, I know you.
Yeah, I started out with my other 6 siblings. Don't forget, I started way down there.
It's so easy to forget the mistakes and the journeys you went through. And like judge other people. Like I don't think I mean I only think the only person that judges is God, and I believe in that. I don't judge anybody. Do I want to help people? Of course, and find better ways to utilize their skills, talents, and resources. Yes, but I don't judge you, because guess what? I'm not perfect. I have made those mistakes. I'm just fortunate that those mistakes, those struggles, and that journey got me to where I am today. And I think I don't want to forget that. And I think a lot of leaders got to look self-internally at the mirror and go, don't forget what you went through to get here. And if you're a perfect leader like Fitz and you just happen, but
man, you're talking the wrong people, Jay. I've had more failures than I know what to do with.
But I think that's like we got to have a round 2. Yeah. You know, like we need you back to talk failures the whole time. Like, but
that could be a whole session.
I think like man, dude, this has been a great conversation.
Thank you.
I'll let Michelle. Maybe we'll find it with you. Anything from you, like.
No, it's just been great. I love hearing the difference of the civilian world and then the military world, and just how there's so much to be gained from each and learned from each other, that there's some value that the civilian world carries that, the military could help with. But so how you've blended them both together has been beautiful and as we all grow, right? We're not the same leaders we were 10, 15, 20 years ago. So to hear a little bit of your evolution and how you've gotten where you are and what you're doing for organizations, not only in the community, but for USAA. We really appreciate you bringing it on and sharing your vulnerability and just lessons learned. We appreciate it.
Yeah, this has been fun. Anytime. Happy to come back.
I love it. Yeah. Any final words? Like,
parting words.
Oh man, I wish I had something really, thought provoking here for you. What I'd say is, as leaders, we should be thinking about the workforce of the future, not just the skills they need, but the environment that they're going to be operating in, and the type of leadership that they're going to need. And if we're not willing to reinvent ourselves, then we need to really ask why we're in that leadership position and what it is that we're rooted to, as a leader. For myself, I'm rooted into being a leader because I believe there's a lot of people walking around with untapped potential, untapped talent, yet to be discovered, yet to be developed. I know that because that was me. And I came in with no degree into the world of banking and insurance. Here I've got a couple of graduate degrees, countless trainings, 2 beautiful kids, a faith that's rooted deeper than I ever thought possible. And that's because I've been continually willing to reinvent myself. And we have to look to the future with that mindset, because it's going to be here. Well, it's here. It's here. And you're feeling it already.
Right. That's wonderful.
Well, we've started the briefing room to help leaders grow and be better and find ways to find teammates and relationships that they can grow their capability. And I think, man, we couldn't pick a better person to have on the podcast today. And I love that you said the future. this is why we have these discussions, to be better tomorrow than we are. Be better tomorrow than we are today. And I think we're going to do that. And I hope you out there listening enjoy the briefing room. I can't wait for you guys to watch this guy and be on the lookout for this consulting firm that's going to take care of the future workforce. So thank you.
And subscribe.
Yeah, and subscribe.